Good morning, welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this Wednesday morning. A lot of the Celtic publications are talking about the fact there's been some movement in share ownership, and it's not been much, to be fair. The Lindsell Train Investment Company has reduced its shareholding. I'll tell you how much in a minute. The Lindsell Train Investment Trust. It is an investment company. Who have a substantial share in Celtic FC. And the investment objective of Lindsell Train, the trust investment objective is to maximise long-term total returns, with a minimum objective to maintain a real purchasing power of sterling capital by heavily investing in a wide range of financial assets with no limitations on markets or sectors in which investments will be made. There is likely bias towards equities and sterling assets, which Celtic Football Club are. Now, they've been a long-term investor in Celtic Football Club, and when you look at how long they've been invested, I think that this is purely taken off profits. When you look at the share price going back to 2007 until today, the share price is sitting at a nice little price for them. Now, they have only reduced their shareholding in Celtic. They did have they had a voting rights of 16.39%. They've only dropped it to 15.7%. So it's not a dramatic decrease. It's the equivalent to 750,000 shares, which you can say is a big amount by any means. But for me, when you look at the graphs, it's purely taking a profit. That's the only reason that this investment company, they will look at the way the share price has gone. They will see that it's at a high for the amount of time, and anyone that invests any kind of money knows that you take a little bit out when the share price goes up just to take out some profit, and then you can reinvest it at a later date if the share price was to fall. So for me, it's nothing really to worry about. It would be interesting to see exactly who the shares have been sold to, because if they've been sold to Dermot Desmond, that could just that'll wind fans up something completely the other way. But anyway, the Celtic shareholders, I mean, when you look into the Celtic shareholdings, obviously Dermot Desmond's 35% stake is a dominant influence. It's not a majority, but he is the biggest shareholder. When you look at the other big shareholders, you've got Traynor, Keane, Allison. They're all private holders, but they're also on the board. The Lindsell Train stake, for me, when the stuff that I'm reading, it has to, if they cross a disclosure threshold, as in 3%, 5%, 10%, or 30%, it's not going to make waves in the stock market, because it's under 3%. It's way under 3% that they've sold. So it'll be interesting to find out, because there should be some information about that in the upcoming AGM, which should take place next month. In the next week or so, Celtic should announce exactly when the next AGM is. This is what the board look at. Previously, I don't know about that mob. I'm just reading some of the comments that are coming through. Yeah, I mean, it is, who did they sell the shares to? It's only, I mean, it's under 1% of their share issues, but who did they sell them to? Who bought them? That is the worry. I don't think it is a worry, because if you start worrying about who's buying less than 1% of an investment company's shares, do you know, a lot of people are wanting Dermot Desmond to sell his shares, and then it's who do you sell them to? Who takes them over? Protest at the AGM. Will there be a protest at the AGM? it is the place to ask the questions, but having seen what come out of the meeting from the Celtic supporters, a 3-hour meeting, and so the people that were in there, but one person that I spoke to said it was the biggest waste of 3 hours ever. It was a waste of time, complete waste of time. You're never going to get nothing at the board. But anyway, that is the Celtic news this morning, talking about, there's quite a few publications talking about that this investment company, the second largest shareholder, have sold less than 1% of their shares. For me, it's just headline grabbing. I don't think there's a lot in it, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the AGM. It'll be interesting to see, because it should come out in the next day or so. I mean, if it came, they were sold. I think they were sold yesterday, so which means there has to be an announcement at the stock market this morning, and I've never checked. So we'll wait and see what happens. For me, it's a non-news story. But if it's Celtic fans that's bought them, could be interesting. Could be interesting. Remember that Celtic fans need to buy upwards of 5% to get some kind of voting role within the club. When it comes to other Celtic news, there's not a lot going on this morning, as you would expect. A lot of the players will be returning to Celtic Park today, and tomorrow we'll see them all back in full training. Brendan Rodgers will be hoping that as many as possible return back as fit as possible. When you look at the games that's coming up, big game this weekend, but Celtic have also reduced. They're trying to punt the tickets again, aren't they? Celtic return to Paradise next week, Thursday the 23rd of October, with the visit of Austrian side Sturm Graz. As the boys continue their Europa League campaign, you could play your part in creating the famous atmosphere as we look to take all 3 points. It's been a while since we've had that famous atmosphere, let's be honest, in a European context, and never mind Europa. And when you look at Champions League, season tickets who have not purchased their 4-match package can buy tickets for Sturm Graz. People that haven't bought their tickets for the 4-match package have been taken off the home ticket cup scheme, which takes them out the ballot for games at Hampden. The season ticket holders can buy them at £39, concessions £30, under 13s £27. That's ridiculous for an under 13 to charge £27. Other supporters can buy tickets online at £45 per match, plus an online booking fee. Let's have a look at how many are sold online. The Sturm Graz show availability. Just scanning around the stadium. There's quite a lot of empty seats, has to be said. But it is what it is. People don't like the Europa. The main stand seems to have filled up a bit for this game. The Lisbon Lion End. But I think Celtic just falsify this information on their ticket website. Anyway, let's jump into the comments and see what you're saying about the share issue stuff this morning, and see what people are saying about the... Oh, I don't want that. I want the comments. I think some people should be careful what they wish for. I'm with you on this one, Big Rab. Yeah, I've said it before. I mean, I think that for me, a good bit of change. I mean, I think everyone's in agreement that get rid of Peter Lawwell and put in Martin O'Neill as chairman. I think that would be a fantastic thing going forward for the club. I think it would give the club and the supporters a bit of connection. But you know, should Martin O'Neill be the person that Celtic appoint as CEO, and would Martin O'Neill take it? I don't think that CEO you have to have a... I mean, Martin O'Neill obviously has a good sense for football, but when it comes to his CEO, can he fulfil that duty? They aren't at Celtic because they love the club. Protesters, Jimmy Johnson. It's been a cash cow. If they see trouble ahead, says Brown Warrior, regarding the fan base getting organised, and they see a drop off in terms of merchandise. Well, there was a lot of people saying that they went in, they were outside the Celtic shops yesterday when Celtic dropped a new collection and there seems to be no boycott of merchandise. You know, the Celtic shops, people were reporting on Twitter that the Celtic shops seem to be quite busy and quite buoyant. So Celtic fans are ignoring any talk of boycotting merchandise en masse. So it's an interesting one to see where it goes forward. Obviously, with the game coming up this weekend, will the collective revert back to the silences at games? Has that been effective enough? And what is their way going forward after having their meeting with the boards? Brown Warrior says, nothing lasts forever, they're probably getting ready to retire. It's an investment company, mate. I think that's the least of their worries is selling 1%. I just think it is purely all about taking profit from the shares, because they have been involved in Celtic for a long time, and when you look at the graph, it is kind of at an all-time high since 2007. So it would be an ideal time to offload some of those shares and reinvest the money. You never know, they maybe think that they're maybe selling their shares just now because they see Celtic shares as maybe at an all-time high. They're sitting watching people in the disengagement with the fans. They see a reduction in bums on seat for the Europa Games. They will see this and they will look at it and go, Celtic are in the Europa, they're not in the Champions League, they're not going to have the money that they had last year, which means that the share price in 6 months time to a year's time will come down slightly. It won't be at the high because they won't have the income that they generated last year from the Champions League. So us taking a less than 1% selling off of shares whilst it's at that high, whilst retaining such a high volume of Celtic shares, would, for me, it's a sign of people that are good with money just taking some profit because they know that the price will come back down again. It'll be interesting to see if they buy back the shares in 6 or to 10 months time. So it'll be interesting to see, we say the least. Every Celtic fan I know, most are on many pods I'm on, are all boycotting merch. I can only go by what people are saying on the internet and what they saw at the Celtic shops. That people are still going into the shops. People that go to games and stuff, you know, and people, you know, you'll have family members that will go and buy birthday presents, and they're not interested if they don't go to games. You've got to remember, Celtic's got a massive fan base, and if you've got people that do not go to games, that aren't on social media following Celtic stuff, which is there's a massive amount of people that will not be following what is going on day to day on Celtic, you know, and they would just look at the score lines. They're not interested in the PLC. They're not interested in, you know, if your missus doesn't listen to a word that you say about Celtic, and it's like, oh, it's your birthday coming up, I'm going to go and buy him a Celtic top. Do you know what I mean? It's going to happen. It is going to happen. Back the team. Back the boss. Big Rab, you're a board apologist. Let's not get personal, mate. I don't think he's a board apologist. We all know that money speaks volumes. Without money, we don't have control. This is facts. Yeah. And looking forward, I hope that we can get. And for me, like I said, for me, the biggest change that we can do at the moment would be to get rid of Lawwell and put in someone like Martin O'Neill as a figurehead for the club. I think that would go a long way to start to get things moving when it comes to the Celtic fan base and the board. Anyway, Celtic released academy talent. Interesting that. Anyway, thank goodness tomorrow is a Thursday. We can all get back to talking about Celtic and what Celtic will be doing this weekend. What players will be fit? What players will not be fit? That is the big question. And do we start? And let's face it, we're going to be talking this weekend about do we start a certain Celtic player? When you look at the fact that he's not been in the best of form since returning back to Celtic, he's not been fit. A lot of ex-pros and people are saying that Kieran Tierney needs time to adjust after not playing a lot of football for a couple of years. Can you remember when Craig Gordon was out for about 2 years with a broken leg? And then he was sold to Celtic. And he had an absolute blinder. I'm just trying to make the comparison about someone that's been out injured for a long time. Martin O'Neill said yesterday in News Baz that he is. Is he really that relevant in 2025? Brown Warrior, do you not think that someone like Martin O'Neill could bring the fans together as a figurehead to the club? Who would you rather come in? Because if you don't bring in someone of a Celtic mind like that, you're going to end up bringing in some kind of businessman that has, for CEO, that is all going to be about the money. So be careful what you wish for. I mean, if you are shouting about change at the club and getting rid of businessmen, getting rid of Lowell, getting rid of people that are Celtic people, but then when you talk about bringing in a figurehead for the club, CEO doesn't do anything on a day-to-day basis. A CEO doesn't have any big decisions to make on the running of the business of the club. He's a figurehead. Peter Lawwell's not playing the figurehead role correct, in my opinion. And I just think that it would be a perfect thing to do. But everyone's allowed their opinion. Anyway, Larsson had his shin bone and come back and won the Golden Boot. Yeah, don't know. Can't compare an outfield player to a goalie, says Les. But then you just had the Larsson one. Larsson broke his leg. Do you remember? Larsson's ankle was sitting like this. His ankle was sitting like that. It's not hamstrings. Do you know, Larsson was proper fucked. I mean, Larsson's injury at Lyon away was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Great to see all the keyboard warriors really think. Shout loud as meaning speak for all fans. No, you don't. So right, come on, stop getting personal on the chat. Anyway, you're always relevant with a wealth of knowledge. I think so. I mean, I think that when you have a football knowledge, when you have managerial knowledge, when you have the experience of working with the board from a football sense, we need another Fergus McCann. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You've got your Fergus McCann. Fergus McCann owned the whole football club. Square sausage mix. So you're saying that we go back to one person owning the whole club? That's disastrous. That's disastrous in my opinion. Bringing in forward-thinking business people, and he would no doubt have his own critics from the fan base. Some fans regarding decisions that I agree with. What's the president of Albania doing? Yeah, Albania. That's a right democratic country, that, isn't it? Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. I will be back at 8 PM Celtic part-time tonight. And hopefully we'll get some kind of update from Celtic about players that are back in and players that aren't, and what players are fit and which players aren't. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic day. Celtic fans, wherever you are. It's 3 degrees in sunny Girvan as I tried to hide for the sun and I've got a fan on.